There comes a time in every manager's career when they must ask themselves whether they're cut out for this lifestyle. For Roy Fleming, it had come sooner than most. At just 34, his first managerial job had ended in disaster, and he'd been given the boot 5 months into his time in Luxembourg despite pulling Mariska Merch out of a catastrophic tailspin. He believed his somewhat eclectic tactical ideas could work if he could just get the players to buy into the project. But he could not afford to fail twice in a row. It was now or never. He decided a drop further down the leagues was necessary to rebuild his reputation. It was then that an opportunity presented itself in Wales. Cardiff Draconians had just won promotion to the JD Cymru South, the second tier of Welsh football, for the first time in the club's history. But manager Nana Barr had decided to step aside to focus on other endeavours. This left an opening for Roy to step in. The league itself was ranked nearly 100 places lower than his previous job in Luxembourg, but Roy hoped it could be just the reset he needed to finally see some success. Despite the club making a massive step up, they were considered by the bookies to be capable of a top half finish, thus putting even more pressure on Roy, not only to keep them up, but build a platform from which they could progress. Every stage of a journey has its pivotal moments, and for Roy, he hoped this could be his turning point. With us arriving at the club just 4 days before our first game of the season, there was much work to be done, especially as the club had only 13 senior players, many of which would certainly not be up to the standard of this division. As a semi-pro side, we'd have very limited training time in order to teach the players our tactical approach, especially as we had to accept that there would likely be a very large personnel turnover. So here is a little introduction to some of the lads that actually survived the season. The most Italian-sounding Englishman of all time, Didcot's finest, Massimo Mazzoni, club captain, and a man we've come to rely on a lot this season to get the team purring from the left-hand side. Next, we had local lad Phil Stanton, a fullback who very much put the back in fullback, as what he lacked in pace and work rate, he more than made up for in sheer apathy and lack of determination, like Marvin the Robot in Mercurial Superflies. We then had another local boy in vice-captain Matthew Bates. He could tackle and had all the required mental skills to be a leader on the pitch, giving it all for 90 minutes. The biggest hole in his game is simple. You'd need to measure his pace with a calendar, but at least he could jump. We also had 25-year-old Kyriakos Antonio. The Nailsworth-born Cypriot had been exactly what we wanted, a shadow striker we could build a team around. Unfortunately, he moved to Basingstoke before the end of August to be closer to family, though I suspect that it was more that they were offering him £240 a week on a part-time deal to play for them when we were stuck offering Mars bars and bags of chips to our guys. Then there was Jake Jones. JJ had never met a chance he couldn't miss, but a dramatic lack of depth would see him get a lot more time on the pitch than perhaps he should have done. The last of the survivors was Aaron McCarthy. The Irishman did a fine job for us before we let him move on to pastures new, so I guess not really a survivor. With these guys being the best of the bunch, we had a lot of work to do to get them up to speed, and many reinforcements would be needed if this squad was to live up to the expectations of mid-table. With just 4 days before our first game, we were only able to sign Erhan Akbulut and Justin Mitchell on loan before we met Avon Lido, but we did at least win the game to give early hopes that this bunch of misfits could actually achieve something. Thankfully, in the following month, we were able to start assembling a framework of a team while playing our first few league games. Connor James joined us on loan from Aberystwyth Town, and while he was nothing special attribute-wise, he was at least capable of running about for 90 minutes in the midfield. Barely. 23-year-old Kai Joseph joined us from Swansea University to give us a much-needed defensive partner for Matthew Bates, the football being a nice distraction from the master's degree in musical theatre he was getting at his previous club. Kieran Evans rocked up from Conwy to help Mazzoni not feel so alone on the left-hand side. Then Charlie Williams, who gave a little more bite in the centre of the park, even if he wasn't really suited for the role we intended to play him in. Andras Machelka joined us from South Gower in an attempt to replace the output of Antonius, but he was very much not up to it. The last of our August signings was that of Josh Allen, though it has to be said he was signed more for his default facepack picture. Picture is... I've only just seen... It looks like he's leaning over a counter. He is going to literally, he is mid-headbutt right now. I really cannot stress enough that this is the one the game has by default. With the signings made and the squad just about assembled, it was time to get in to the league campaign. It was a shaky start as we had to come from behind twice against Llantwit Major with 2 goals from Justin Mitchell of all people. The fullback who'd been drafted in to play DM didn't let us down. However, we quickly shook things off against Cwmbran with an absolute demolition job that saw us 6-1 up by half time with 4 goals from Mark Morrison. I'd show you his profile, but this was literally the only thing he did all season before deciding to retire a few months later. He may be gone, but the legend of his first half 4-goal haul lives on in Draconians folklore. A swift exit from the cup at the hands of top flight Haverfordwest followed before we were reminded emphatically that we were in fact new to this league and had a lot of lessons to learn. Samrandul and Cardiff Ely made sure that we wouldn't forget it in a hurry.
I just want to see us actually create a shot. Here we go, drive it across, finish it. Go on, bang. Well, it is a goal.
We followed it up with a poor draw at home in which we were barely lucky to come away with anything. However, in the background, the cohesion was building and the new players were actually starting to understand the plan. This began to show as first we dismantled South Gower, scoring 4 goals from just 3 shots on target. Somewhat fortunate, you might say. We then struck lucky again in the derby against Cardiff Draconians before clawing back a 2-goal deficit to earn a fair point at Bagland Dragons.
Right, come on, get it under control. What are you doing? He's going to give away a penalty now.
A decent run of results, but luck was very much on our side. We needed to start backing it up with performances if we were to maintain these levels. It did, however, leave us 5th in the league and technically only 2 points off the top. Our massive goal difference was largely thanks to the 2 enormous wins, but we take what we could get. Importantly, we were already 7 points above the drop zone and right where we were supposed to be. The real question is whether we could kick on. The answer was yes. Actually, first we were knocked out of the Tier 2 League Cup, but after that, we kicked on. We were winning games and actually deserving it now. Goals were flowing and the defence had really started to tighten up as we stomped along, winning 4 games in a row in the league and conceding just 2 goals over that period. But it was an unexpected hero who had contributed some important winning goals over that stretch.
Perfect. Go on, slip it across. It's Alan! This is Josh Allen mode. Let's go.
Remarkably, this run of wins placed us firmly at the top of the league after 11 games. What started out as luck had now very firmly turned into quality. We were 3 points clear and had a superior goal difference. We decided there was something special on the cards, but in order to sustain this title push for the sole promotion spot, our team needed help. Here entered the reinforcements. Over the next month, we picked up 5 massive free agent signings. Our league position had made them buy into the project, but we now knew the pressure was on. First, there was Lewis Lacey. The tall 20-year-old left-back was a huge step up from Justin Mitchell and the type of player we could never have hoped to sign in the summer. Tommy Malcolm would do the same for the right-hand side, giving competition for Phil Stanton due to his ability and desire to, well, run. James Black rocked up to bolster the midfield. Although mostly used as a sub, he was great to have around. Jamie Veal, on the other hand, proved much more important, giving us some much-needed depth in the DM spots due to his marking ability and very much not his long throws, but we saved the best for last. Sam Aston had been released by Sheffield United and had taken a job in Cardiff while looking for a new club. We hoped his finishing ability could be the missing piece of the puzzle that could unlock this team's goal scoring even more. Unfortunately, the new signing struggled to adapt at first as we drew back-to-back games 1-1 against Swansea University and Carmarthen Town before being dumped out of the cup by Avon Lido. But once the new guys settled in, we began firing on all cylinders again, putting down our second run of 4 straight wins of the season already, scoring plenty of goals, but more importantly, conceding only once. Sam Aston made an immediate impact, scoring what turned out to be the winning goal on his debut to help us on the way, a screamer that would become somewhat of a trademark for the young man, leading us to dub that area of the corner of the box as Sam Aston's office. This run had really begun to scare the league, as we were now 6 points clear at the top with just 1 defeat in our first 17 league games, the best goal difference and showing absolutely no signs of slowing down heading into January. We held on for a massive 0-0 draw against title rivals Cardiff Ely while under a lot of pressure, before bouncing back with another win thanks to Sam Aston. More drop points with a draw to South Gower followed, but we responded well once again. First with a derby win over Cardiff Draconians, then we had a huge moment against Bagland, which saw us throw away a 2-goal lead with the equaliser coming in the 94th minute, only for us to go and win the game thanks to Jake Jones in the 95th minute, probably his only meaningful contribution to our season. No, seriously. Unfortunately, all good things come to an end, as our unbeaten run in the league, which had now reached 19 matches, was finally ended by Trevelyan, despite us being the better side. Incredibly, we were still only 2 points clear at the top of the league, even though we'd lost just 2 of our first 22 league games. Speaking of 2s, it was very much a 2-horse race between us and Avon Lido, who did still have the distraction of playing in the Welsh Cup. They'd also managed to claw their goal difference back to overtake us. It seemed that no matter what we did, they were in the background, watching, waiting for us to slip up. All this was made a lot more tense by the fact that we would literally have to play Avonlido away from home on the final day of the season. Talk about a banger. Actually don't, as they were too busy winning the other league at this level. And it was at this point that we decided it was time for a new goalkeeper. As much as Aaron McCarthy had done for the club, we felt we needed someone more reliable between the sticks in our final 8 games. Enter Ryan Galvin. We love a Galvin around these parts, and despite his one-on-ones being nothing short of appalling, he had cat-like reflexes and aerial reach that meant we could finally get those balls off the roof of the clubhouse. He was thrown straight into the deep end, and despite not keeping a clean sheet, put in 3 solid performances that allowed us to take another 7 points. Aston also added a further 2 goals to bring his tally to 6 in 10 games. But more importantly, it allowed us to hold Avonlido at bay, as they could only match our tally of 7 points from 3 games. With 4 matches to go, we were still top by 2 points. That goal difference was a worry though, as the final day trip to our title rivals loomed over us like a dark cloud. Spare a thought for Pontypridd, who at the start of the season were one of the favourites for the title and promotion, but were already all but relegated after another defeat to us compounded their disaster of a season. But speaking of disasters, we fell short right when it mattered most. A Friday evening match against Swansea University caught us off guard. Perhaps if it was a Saturday lunchtime kickoff, they'd have all come hungover, but it was no such luck for us. We fell 2 goals behind and were never able to recover despite putting in a good performance on the stats. Aston and Mazzoni's goals were not enough to save us. All this was made worse by Avonlido's 4-1 victory away at Cardiff Draconians, meaning that we'd lost the lead of the league for the first time since October. We were now also 6 behind on goal difference, making our run-in even harder, given that we had to play top half-sides Llanelli Town and Carmarthen before our date with Destiny on the final day. Their schedule was a lot more congested than ours, however, as they'd already made the Welsh Cup final and were still in the Tier 2 League Cup, the semi-final of which they'd have to play very soon. We kept our side of the bargain with a tremendous 4-0 victory away at Carmarthen Town. The best they could manage was a 0-0 against Baglan Dragons, which allowed us to leapfrog back over them and into the lead again. We'd also cut a nice chunk out of their goal difference advantage with the big win. They then had to play a midweek cup match against Pontypridd, which went all the way to penalties before they progressed. We hoped the tiredness would become a factor going into the weekend, and we had had a full week's rest. On the penultimate match day, we did our part. A brilliant 2-0 victory over Llanelli Town, thanks to goals from Mazzoni and Veal. But what of Avonlido?
Going to be champions of Wales. It's his 2nd tier. It's 5-3. It doesn't matter because Cardiff Dracs are champions of the 2nd division of Wales. We've actually got them promoted playing that tactic. That extra time in the cup in midweek has destroyed them. We made the smart plays by being shit in the start of the season. I can't believe we've actually firstly gone and won this game. After losing that game, that 3-2 where we were the better team, we have kicked arse since then and been absolutely brilliant.
Against all the odds, we'd actually managed to win the league with a game to spare, thanks to the late stumble. We'd still play them on the final day, but it would be meaningless, except for the fact they were forced to give us a guard of honour as the new champions.
Kiss the ring.
On their own ground. That has got to sting a little bit. They got their mini form of revenge by humbling us 4-1 despite us actually playing well, but it didn't matter because we were going to the top flight and they would be stuck here for at least another season. It is worth noting, however, that they did amazingly end up winning the JD Welsh Cup, beating top flight Cardiff Met University, and actually got into Europe the following season. Even managed to get through a round, earning themselves £700,000. So who are the real winners? It's still us. In terms of scoring, no one actually broke double figures for us this year, but the goals were nicely spread around the team. Kai Joseph ended up as top scorer from centre-back, largely thanks to his penalty taking combined with chipping in a couple from set pieces too. Aston was a revelation with 8 goals in his 15 games for the club. Shout out to Charlie Williams too, with 8 from central midfield despite being much more of a defensive player. Evans and Mazzoni combined for a nice chunk of assists too, with 7 and 6 respectively. We definitely need to up our scoring, but at least the defence was doing its job with just 31 conceded all season. Back-to-back promotions for Drax truly was a miracle to behold, but we were just getting started. Next season would be a much more difficult prospect with more games to play and tougher teams to play those games against. Our shoestring budget certainly wouldn't help us either, but if anyone could do it, it was us. Roy had enjoyed a boost in his reputation to 10%, which would come in very handy on the job hunt in future, but alas was still unable to get any coaching badges to continue his managerial education. Onwards and upwards to the top flight. Going into a second season at a club was a brand new experience for us, but we knew that with the summer and the full off-season, we'd hopefully be able to make the right recruitment decisions and bring a squad together that could hopefully do the bare minimum and stay up. The bookies' odds had us at 150 to 1 and 10th place in the league, which would be good enough for survival should we manage to achieve it. But this wasn't going to come easy or cheap. Our first piece of business was signing star goalscorer Sam Aston to a proper part-time deal to prevent the club circling around him from being able to take him off our hands. At £230 a week, he became easily the highest paid player, but we believed he was more than worth it. Next was the signing of Josh McGlone. We'd really struggled to find a suitable option on the right last season, and Jake Jones had simply not cut it. McGlone, on the other hand, was more than capable of being the player of our dreams on that right-hand side. He was reasonably fast, he could cross and dribble, and we hoped he would finally solve that problem for us. Next, we turned our attention to loans. First, there was Will Madison, brought in from Carlisle with the aim of creating some competition with Tommy Malcolm, as well as giving us more depth. In a similar vein was Leyton Orient youngster Mackay Welsh, who would hopefully add depth to the DM spots. In July, after a series of trials, we settled on a group of players to join the club that we hoped would be enough to keep the club up and reach that 10th place finish expectation, or even better. Ben Collins was the first in the door, and some say he could be the answer to all our prayers at left back. Then a massive step up in goal with Dino Kaiser joining us after his release by Fulham. He could do everything Ryan Galvin could do, but could actually handle a one-on-one. He also had really nice consistency for such a young player. We then found who we hoped would be our permanent solution at right back in Freddie Taylor, who was just better in every way to Malcolm and Madison, and for only £110 a week, we consider that a bargain. For me, the most important role in our system was that CM, driving forward, making those late runs into the box and getting those goals. Charlie Williams had done an admirable job of it this season, but he was really more of a defensive player. We needed someone dynamic that could really take it to the opposition. Devon Brocky, on the other hand, very much was. He had no real defensive acumen, but tell him to get forward and make those late runs and he would be there every time. Kane Richardson also joined to add yet more depth in the DM spot, and at £25 a week, it was a no-brainer. Then there was Shannon Brown, who I was convinced would be a star for us.
Here we go, Shannon Brown. This is the one I really wanted. He could be... Do you know what? Recall him. I don't care. Recall him immediately.
But there was still yet more time before the league season kicked off for us to throw yet more players into the mix. Isn't it great when you got a full summer? First, Clay Ewing was in, a general left-sided player, but had good enough tackling to play as a fullback if we needed him to. Jay Tinsdale was also brought in for the left-hand side and began the phasing out of Massimo Mazzoni, who actually left the club before the end of the season to join Pontador in the second tier, where he could have much more game time and impact. We were, however, very sad to see him go, especially as fellow left-sider Kieran Evans also departed to the second tier in the same window, but we felt that our replacements were more than good enough to take us to the next level. Another victim of the Premier League club releasing was Babu Mbok, who joined from Brentford to be a versatile young option that could in theory sit in any of our 4 available roles in the centre, depending on who we had available at the time. Next was Samuel Amissa, who would add a lot of quality to our backline and would also see Matthew Bates move down the pecking order as we formed a Joseph and Amissa partnership. Sam Aston had crushed it for us last year, and we had complete faith that he could go and do it again. But it's always good to have an insurance policy, and that came in the form of Robbie Swinburne. Interestingly, on loan from Britain Ferry, who'd been relegated from the top flight last season, his desire to play Cymru Premier football would hopefully be an asset as Aston's backup. With the revamped squad taking shape, we progressed easily in the League Cup and began looking forward to our first ever game in the Premier League against recent title chasers Bala Town. But we were in for a baptism of fire. Despite a good overall performance, their quality showed in the end as we fell to a 3-0 defeat. But not to worry, there was always next week, right? Yeah, not quite. Truthfully, we got absolutely battered on paper, but at the very least did manage to score our very first goal in the top flight, thanks to Devon Brocky. And it's probably Devon Brocky, but Devon Brocky just sounds so much cooler.
Who scores our first top flight goal ever in the history of Cardiff Tracks? I reckon it's gonna be Brocky. A random deep run from central midfield, and I think Devon Brocky's gonna be the man. Aston. Brocky! Oh, imagine! Oh! It's like he's seen the script.
Don't look at me, this is a Pizza Hut menu. The home fans still hadn't witnessed a goal from us yet this season, but they did see us get our first point against recent champions Penybont. We hoped this could be a foundation to build upon. Unfortunately, it seems we built our house on quicksand, as Haverfordwest reminded us that there are no freebies here. Bottom of the league after 4 games, just a single point to our name and a goal difference that screamed, God help us all. The one positive we had was that it was early days, and even a morsel of form could see us back in the fight. We decided that to get that fight, we needed, yes, you're hearing this correctly, more reinforcements, especially at the back. Enter Luca Fernal Gill. He may be a lover, not a fighter, thanks to his low aggression, but he was big and generally suited to this level after his release from Liverpool. Alongside him came Filozofe Mabete, who we honestly thought would play more, but injuries, who could have seen that coming, and generally awful form kept him away from games. Lastly, there was utility forward Kian Philpott, who could operate in many positions across the front of our team. However, he was most commonly used on the bench. I'm pretty sure the plastic seat had started to mould into the shape of his arse as he made 26 substitute appearances but 0 starts in the league. But then it was time for business. We finally got our first win of the season as we played Colin Bay again for the second time in like 2 weeks. Welsh fixture computer go brrr. It's fair to say we were quite fortunate though. Not that Devon Brocky would care.
That's good from Brocky. Go on, slide him in. Find the pass. Or just... Oh my God!
We are so back.
Keeper, he's not going to come for that, but that's okay.
It is so over. Remarkably, this left us outside of the relegation places. Let's just stop everything here and pretend that we haven't played a game more than everybody else. We then dropped out of the League Cup to a second tier side, but as always, less fixture congestion, the better for us at this stage, or other forms of cope. Then finally, some delicious food as we swept aside Holywell 4-0 with goals from all over the park, then followed up with Robbie Swinburne making a statement against Barry Town.
A very different type of player to Robinson. Oh, come on, Swinburne. No way. No way. What a goal. Robbie Swinburne, Drax 1. Oh, he's gone for the knee slide as well.
It was then straight back down to earth against Connors Key as Sam Aston decided that 2-0 up was the perfect time to randomly get sent off. We then went on to lose the game 3-2 and be left ruining what could have been. Also wondering whether Sam Aston should ever start for this club again. We bounced back fast though by annihilating Bangor with Robbie Swinburne scoring 2 more and firmly taking that starting spot away from Sam Aston, who was watching on from the stands while suspended. No doubt with Kian Philpott. A tepid display saw us back to losing again against Newtown, but the red card really didn't help. We did then at least win a game in the cup against a lower league team. That's something, right? But apparently didn't realise we were back in the league again as the scoring didn't relent with a 5-0 humbling of Barla Town and Robbie Swinburne yet again showing us pure quality at this level.
Can we maybe get lucky and... Oh, come on, Swinburne. And maybe sneak into the top battle. Oh, Swinburne! No! That is unbelievable.
Our toughest test of the season, though, was to come next, and we were truly capable of rising to the challenge. First, taking a 2-0 advantage, then being pegged back to 2-1. Babu and Bok then added a third for us before half-time. We felt it was a slightly false position as it soon proved to be exactly that, as a penalty got TNS back in the game before Ben Hammond slotted home the equaliser just 4 minutes later. But then, this.
Taking it slow. He wants to make sure we actually score the goal in stoppage time, so he's going to wait until we're in the 90th minute before he takes it. Come on, ball in. Oh, no! Yes! Kian Philpott! Cardiff Dracs 4, New Saints 3. An absolute goal-mouth scramble of a goal, and we've surely now just beaten TNS.
What a difference a few games can make as we'd now rocketed up the table into 5th place. 7 points clear of the drop zone and in fact only 4 points off the top. We obviously still had that extra game played, but it was nice to dream. Let me dream, damn it! We'd also managed to flip our goal difference to +6 thanks to the sheer size of some of our recent victories. We were then brought straight back down to earth again as despite taking the lead against Pennybont, we threw it all away. Thankfully, some more progression in the Welsh Cup allowed morale to recover immediately. A strong performance against Haverfordwest honestly should have been a win as they were able to score their only shot on target of the game, but did at least have us putting up some good underlying numbers. This then translated perfectly into a dominating win over Holywell, which very much could have been by an even larger margin, despite Ben Collins crashing out midway through the game. However, we really need to stop defending like this.
Really all that different other than not having a boss or having to work with other people specifically. Oh, come on!
But all that XG we'd saved up was used all at once against Cardiff Met University as we found ourselves 6-0 up at the hour mark before taking our foot off the throttle slightly and allowing them marginally back into the game. A great hat-trick from Josh McGlone was responsible for some of the goals, along with 2 assists from the undisputed #1 shadow striker, Robbie Swinburne. Sorry, Sam. More Welsh Cup progression followed, and then closely after, so did even more goals and even more wins. This time it was Swinburne's turn for the hat-trick, making it 10 goals in 15 league appearances for us already this year, as we sent Barry Town for a ride on the funfair and they were extremely lucky to get 3 goals. Still nice to see Regan Booty scoring one for them after his refusal to join us in the summer. Regan, I will not forget this. I will be signing you. Mark my words. We then added a 4th straight win in the league thanks to an unlikely brace from ball-winning midfielder Mackay Welch. He actually had the chances in this game to score a hat-trick. Survive relegation, you say? Yeah, might just manage it. Over halfway through the season and we were now second, just 2 points off the top with a goal difference to match. Now 13 points clear of the drop, there was no longer any fear of the abyss. Instead, we were looking towards the heavens, or in this case, Shropshire. But we still had to wrap up that place in the championship group, because from there, things would get even tougher for us. Surely we couldn't actually take this team of ragtag misfits and get them into Europe in their first season in the top flight. So we looked towards the heavens, and heaven beat us 2-0. Ben Collins didn't help with yet another red card. What a helmet. TNS celebrated the result by buying Sam Aston off of us for absolutely nothing, then loaning him back to us as part of the deal. We saw it as a chance to get his wages off the bill and still get to keep him as a backup for the rest of the season. We then turned right around and gave that money to Bournemouth to loan Hugo Garcia from them, as we once again flailed around trying to find someone who could be consistent on that right side. We could see none of his attributes, and truly his only selling point was, but he plays for Bournemouth. We recovered from the poor result against TNS by putting strugglers Newtown to the sword before being unable to take our chances against Bangor and going down 1-0. It really didn't help that our goalkeeper had chose to become a charity for the day.
But I can't remember which. It used to be on the training screen, was it not? Right.
But none of that stopped us from making the championship group. We had now fallen 6 points from the top and 4 points away from Europe though. There would be no easy games from here on, but it meant every win could be even more meaningful. So we gave even more meaning to the word useless by starting out the next phase poorly, losing to Pennybon and ceding even more ground to those around us. Thankfully, the home form and Josh McGlone saw us set the record straight immediately. There was still time for petty revenge as we knocked Pennybon out of the Welsh Cup on pens to reach the semi-finals ourselves. We'd meet a floundering Barry Town in that semi-final in a few weeks with a great chance to go all the way.
Don't know if you can hear that, Avon Lido, down in the second tier. Turns out, Cup not that difficult to win after all.
Mugs. Another poor performance saw us lose further ground against Colin Bay. Losing Philpott, Welch and Ewing to injuries in the same game made matters even worse for us. A gallant display saw us nab a point against TNS, but it could have been so much more, and at this stage just felt like 2 more points dropped. And with 6 games to go, while not mathematically out of the title race, it was basically over for us, having fallen 12 points behind. The race for Europe, on the other hand, was very much still on, but would require us to start picking up more points consistently. So we got our heads down and actually did exactly that. First, it was yet another great performance against Barla Town. We had to settle for 2 goals this time, but as usual, it could have been more. Next, it was a comeback win over Haverfordwest with a brace from Jay Tinsdale to go back to back. Then, even better was yet another win over Peddybont thanks to once again Jay Tinsdale. Also in that game, our physio decided to take the phrase 12th man a little too literally.
Here we go. What is it? The physio's just on the pitch. Brother, this is not the time. You need to get off the pitch. You are interfering with play. Also, who is the physio? We don't have a physio.
This shot us right back up into 3rd place, and surprisingly only 2 points behind a stuttering Colin Bay, who had looked to be locked in for 2nd place, especially as their goal difference did them no favours. We currently occupied the last European place, but knew that if we were to lose our upcoming semi-final against Barrytown in the Cup, the place would be given to the Cup winner, since the only teams remaining in the Cup were well out of contention via the league. Barry were bottom of the league and favourites to go down.
We're just waiting for a little opening to pop up. This is nice. Swinburne. Oh, going all the way through. Oh! Stoppage time equaliser. Take them to extra time. Sorry, take them to penalties and win it there. This is just going to be a Swinburne header into the goalie's arms, isn't it? Or Ombok. All the way through. Oh, it's cleared away. That won't be the highlight, though. Richardson. Kane Richardson!
We lost on pens. Such a frustrating game where things just didn't go our way in normal time and we couldn't get it done when it mattered most. A huge missed opportunity. This also meant that in order to propel this team into Europe, we now had to finish 2nd, which, while technically not impossible, did seem mighty improbable. We had a chance to do exactly that by hosting Colin Bay. Tinsdale yet again gave us the lead, and his goals in this phase had been a key factor in the late surge. But Charlie Lakin levelled the game with 15 minutes to go, seeing us miss a huge chance to really get our name in the hat for 2nd place. All this made it a 3-horse race for 1 spot, and we still had Barla and TNS to play. We lost 3-1 to TNS and just couldn't muster enough quality to get yet another mad result against easily the best team in Wales. Our 2 main rivals, however, would play on the Sunday, and frankly, me in the moment could do a much better job at explaining this than I can now. Take it away, me!
Here we go. Even a draw, actually. Oh no, a draw could technically do it. The splits are funny. I guess the logic... Oh my god. We technically can still get 2nd place in this league. It's not done. We're not dead yet. Amazingly, we can still do it. We'd have to beat Barla Town on the last day and hope that Colin Bay don't win. Are they all at the same time? They are. Colin Bay are away at Pennybon. Not easy. They're away from home. Get on the ball and fire a pass or make a run. Right, Aston fires it over the top. It's Philpott from central midfield. Can he do it? Philpott! Oh, you've got to be joking. Moments like that are defining. They've deserved their chances too, but too many times in the championship phase have, there you go, Will Dowling in stoppage time. Barlow are going to do it. Barlow might end up stealing second place away from Colin Bay, though, and Robbie Cooper's mob with that goal. That goal there might have actually disqualified these guys for Europe next season.
If Kean Philpott buries that chance and we manage to hang on, that would have been us, second place and into Europe for next season. It's a proper gut-wrencher, it really is. As it was, the best we could do was finish 4th. Still, a full 6 places higher than our expectations, and a mighty effort for a team off the back of back-to-back promotions. Young star Robbie Cooper's insane 36 league goals weren't enough to score Colin Bay a place in Europe thanks to Barry Town winning the cup while getting relegated. Cheers, lads, well done. He did, though, get a move to Aberdeen off the back of it, so perhaps it's not all bad for the young man. As for us, Robbie Swinburne had proven to be the exact player we needed, as his 17 goals fired us to the top 4 finish. Jay Tisdale's insane finish to the year, which saw him net 11 goals in total, was also remarkable, combined with the midfield genius of Devon Brocky, who contributed to 18 goals himself. These guys alone had shown what could be done with some consistency in attacking output and provided a wonderful blueprint for things going forward. Despite the incredible season, we had in fact ever so slightly underperformed our underlying numbers, and perhaps with a bit of luck could well have been deserving of that second place spot. Also, seriously, what the hell is going on with Cardiff Met? Conceding 25 more than they should have done. They somehow managed to have the best attack in the league by 9 clear goals, scoring 72 times, but also have the worst defense in the league by a ridiculous 16 goals, having conceded 82. Not being funny, but they were probably a vaguely competent goalkeeper away from being title winners. What on earth? Either way, Roy felt like his time in Wales had been a success, and while it crossed his mind to extend his contract to see how far he could take the Dracs, he'd proven his tactical ideas could work, and now wanted to put them to the test at a much higher level, wherever in Europe that might be. Despite being unable to get any coaching badges, he hoped that his increased reputation, which now sat at 15%, could be enough to land him a job in the pyramid of a major league. But for now, all he could do was sit back and enjoy the summer. You know what they say, when life gives you lemons, force them to play strikerless until they start winning.